Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is the Viper and the Dove podcast, trying to be as shrewd as a viper and as innocent as a dove in business, church, and life. And so I am so excited to welcome Shawn Sommerkamp, business coach extraordinaire, joining us from South Carolina. Shawn, how are you doing?
As I always say, it's the best day of my life.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a great segue. Why is it the best day of your life?
Well, for all of us who are disciples of Jesus, we know tomorrow's not here yet. No need to worry about it. Yesterday's gone. This literally is the only day we have. So it's the best day, whether we realize it or not.
That's incredible. Well, I'm digging your set that you have back there. Last time, earlier this year, obviously like COVID and everything, you are a business coach. Okay, first of all, how would you describe what you do? Because I could just say you're a business coach, and there are tons of business coaches, but I want to give you the opportunity to describe what it is that you do.
Well, I always say I'm a Christian executive coach, but as an executive, I do business coaching, career coaching, and all the in between, which every client I've ever had, we eventually get into some type of life coaching aspect, but I'm not per se a life coach by any stretch, but business and executive. Yeah.
Okay. So who do you work with? Who are different types of people that you work with? Obviously I've reached out and I want to get some help from you, but who's your typical, person that you work with or group?
So I do small business owners up to $2.5 billion business owners. One of my clients just sold his business for $475 million, which is awesome. So on the business side, it's any range, because a lot of what I do is to help the individual have a better perspective of what it is they're doing. When we don't have a good perspective, it's almost like we're putting blinders in front of us and we can't really see forward. Mm-hmm. So on the career side, I do senior executives, but because I have this very unique, what I'll call mission in life for Christians, I believe we can have a much bigger impact for Christ in the marketplace the higher up the chain of command we go. Mm-hmm. So I start at the top. I coach a lot of CEOs, C-suite types, but I also coach those who aspire to that. Mm-hmm. Most people who are just very happy in their 9-to-5 job don't reach out to hire me. It's people who aspire to do more, know that they can reach more, but can't quite figure out how to do that. That's kind of my ideal client. Okay. And right now I have about 45 active clients, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
Probably a little too much, but it's been a pretty amazing year.
That's great. What was if I can just ask, what has the growth looked like, comparing 2020 to 2019?
Yeah, I'll do probably a 22% growth. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
it's
incredible.
Just, I give the glory to God. Ultimately, COVID, this is a horrible thing to say, but COVID kind of played right into my hands.
Okay.
I was traveling a lot doing the workshops that I do, which is my client acquisition process.
Okay.
And when COVID hit, obviously everybody canceled all of their bookings with me. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I'm going to just start doing Saturday morning Christian executive coaching sessions. And I did 2 hours every Saturday, starting February 1st, all the way up until the first weekend in September. Mm-hmm. And hundreds of people from all over the world were joining. It was amazing. Wow. I couldn't believe it. And that is really, since this is a business discussion, that fed my pipeline, so to speak. Can I say that type of thing?
Of course you can say that kind of thing. I talk with churches all the time about how many leads did you get? No,
exactly. How many did you convert?
Yeah.
Which conversion?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's so funny. So it's interesting. I reached out to you earlier this year, and I was sharing with you a little bit about, my heart and my desire is to see our churches really improve and grow in their online presence and mission on, essentially online. And I ran a couple ideas by you, and I don't know if we've really spoken in depth since then.
No, I have no idea how those things kind of unfolded.
Well, okay, so I'll share. So one of the things that we were able to execute on, I was sharing with you about this 12-month program for churches to be a part of our church media
Yes.
accelerator.
Yes.
And so we were able to get 7 churches on board in our first cohort.
Wow.
And so we've got Metro region in LA. We've got the Denver church, North River, Broward, Boston, Central Jersey, and Potomac Valley.
It is unbelievable. Literally, these are all the churches that I work not that, I mean, it's a coincidence, but I work very closely with all of those too. Because I think about all the leaders, I'm like, yeah,
yes,
those are the people that really are on the cutting edge. I mean, Johnny Rivera in New
yes.
Jersey. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Of course, Will Archer in Potomac Valley.
Of course.
Who's already kind of setting the pace.
Exactly.
Very encouraging to hear that you had that many.
Yes. Well, and so that's the thing is like, I think, you know, it's interesting. I think I'm going to go in and out of different topics here, but I'm interested to kind of hear your perspective on what is the psychographic of the people who end up working with you? Because I think the trend I've seen is in the word that has come to mind when it comes to when I'm even narrowing down who my target audience is, they are early adopters.
Yeah.
And people who are willing to take calculated risk and are comfortable with calculated risk. And so that's kind of the group that we're working with. But you see, even before COVID, these were also the groups that were essentially innovating, or pushing the envelope before COVID anyways. Yeah. And so I realized after the fact, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense why a lot of the groups that decided to join on did.
So the question is, what's the psychographic of the type of person that reaches out to me?
Yeah.
Well, because it's usually people who have this sense that, wow, I was really great in the past, where I've got this huge opportunity coming up and I really have no clue how to deal with it. So it's people that probably are a little bit willing to take on risk for sure. And I think because the way my, client acquisition strategy works, people usually hear me long before they ever reach out to me, which is ideal. I mean, I'm sure that you would want the same thing, but in coaching, it's about an 8-month time frame from when the person first hears about me till they reach out to me. So they've heard.
It's been 8 months since we last spoke.
Has it really been exactly 8 months? But when we were in LA, I just mentioned, hey, I'm going to be on Kalah Haley's podcast. A client of mine who's in San Diego, hey, she spoke at the LA thing. I'm like, yeah, that's her. That was way long time ago.
Right.
But in general, people, when they hear my content, they do start to get a vision for, man, I could do something more. I think I've got a talent. Maybe I've been hiding it some. I want to make sure I'm not hiding it at all. I'm going to reach out to Shawn. So they'll start to think about it and then I'll wait. And then by the time they reach out to me, it's usually the same story. Man, I've been wanting to reach out to you for so long. I finally worked up the courage to do it. That's only because most people don't know what executive coaches do. Okay. Certainly not in the International Churches of Christ. It's kind of new. But it's, I spend a lot of time educating in my drip campaigns, in my content on my YouTube channel. So by the time they reach out to me, they're ready to take the risk. The risk, you used it before, calculated. We don't want to take risk that we don't have a pretty solid idea of what the outcome is going to be or how to at least mitigate it some,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Long answer.
Well, so, okay, how would you describe, because I hear about it on I'm one of those like YouTube junkies that I consume so much content and I have like a ton of like YouTube mentors, so to speak. And so how would you describe executive coaching or even business coach? Okay, so they're two separate things, but like, how would you describe executive coaching and then business coaching?
Well, I don't know if we'll get into this. It'll be interesting if we do, but there are a group of people who call themselves coaches that have no coach training whatsoever.
Okay.
And professional coaching is an internationally certified set of standards.
Okay.
That it takes a lot of time and energy to get trained in it, and actually quite a bit of money. It's about $10,000 to go through a well-run program.
Mm.
But coaching in its purest sense, it's about helping you, the client, access what is already inside of you, but you can't reach because you're being blocked by something. And
Yourself.
coaches are, yeah, everybody. I mean, me included. I have my own coach, Al Benowitz. I've been coached by Al for almost 8 years. You know, he's an executive coach. He does very well. And I love it. He sees things that I can't see, you know, even though I know all the techniques that he's using, he helps me have breakthroughs all the time. And this goes back to Romans 12:2. Everybody knows this passage, of course, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
When we get that renewing, that's kind of removing the blockers, then we can test and prove what God's will is, which a lot of people, a lot of disciples in the ICOC, I'll say, don't like the idea of testing God's will. I thought we weren't supposed to test God. No. You know, test God's will, and we can do it very easily when we remove the blockers. So that's what an executive coach ultimately does. Now, because of my experience in the corporate world, I also, with their permission, take off the coaching hat and put on the consulting hat, because I've managed a $190 million business for GE, you know, a $60 million business for HID. I was a global ops manager for Avid Technologies. So I have some business acumen that they're not going to know. So me asking questions is not going to pull it out of them because they don't know it.
Right.
So I do sometimes consult, but again, if I ask them and they say, yep, I'd love to hear some consulting right now, please do.
Okay. So the coaching side of things is more you helping to reveal things within the person. And then consulting is more of you giving your almost like analysis or advice, more from like the business strategy standpoint.
Yes, although I'm very careful as a coach. One of the things that we kind of swear to in our coaching code of ethics, if any of your listeners are interested, just type in coaching code of ethics to kind of see what I mean.
Okay.
We have to kind of commit to not injecting our agenda into the client call. So even with my consulting, I'm very careful to not think I know what's best for their business, because I don't. How could I? I look for opportunities to inject something, again, with their permission, that might help them tactfully, you know, tactically in the moment, but also to change a strategic look for the future. It's generally, the consulting is not like a normal consultant where I say, hey, I think you should change this and this and this. No, I don't go there.
Okay.
Does that help? Does that explain it?
I think so. Yeah. It's kind of almost in a way, there's almost like this like therapist element, like ethical component. No, I'm not saying you're a therapist. That's not what I'm saying.
I mean, this is, you know, if I can be very vulnerable here with you and all of your listeners, it's the therapists who have now hung the coaching shingle, and they say, hey, I'm a coach, come to me, I'll coach you. Okay. Therapy is way different than coaching. It's why I kind of shook my head. Therapists focus on why things have got you to the present. Coaches never do. We always look at, who cares why it happened in the past? Let's see about how we're going to get you to where you want to be in the future. Right. That's why I did that.
Well, I guess I just mean in terms of like the ethics of not injecting your own agenda into the client. So, okay, maybe can we try and exercise? Because I'm not trying to promise, I'm not getting a free session out of you right now, but I feel like it would be helpful.
I'm happy to help. Please.
For people to see kind of like, because we had our one call earlier this year, and I was just like, wow, that was very like, there was a system to the way you approached even our conversation. And so like, I think of myself as a pretty self-aware person. Like I am very open to, critical feedback. I constantly am thinking of things for myself and how I can do things better, even things that went well. I'm terrible at like positive feedback, by the way, but
you feel awkward when someone says, hey, great job, Kalah. You did an amazing job.
Okay, let me tell you a story real quick if I can. Yeah, so please. After every event, because as you know, because you've been a sponsor for a number of the events that we've put on this year, we ask for feedback. and we have an exit survey that we ask everyone, and we literally at the top of the survey say, we give you permission to be honest with
Yeah.
us.
I love that.
And so it's interesting because I have a really hard time believing people's feedback. I really do, unless it's negative, and then I believe it. But if the reason why, I can explain why. Because just recently I got a call from someone, I won't say who, and they gave me additional feedback that a lot of thought leaders are having or have about my company. And this was not feedback that was relayed either in person or in that exit survey that was also like anonymous. And so it's just really tricky because, and these are all people that I absolutely love and care about, and we have great relationships, but it's very difficult to like, for me to like really know if someone's feedback is true or not. Because then there's these other scenarios where I'm like finding things out additionally, and I'm like, that's great to know. And I knew that you were probably thinking that at the same time. So anyways, that's just my little
So
story.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
How do you feel about the idea that all feedback does carry at least nuggets of truth? What do you think of that?
Oh yeah, I believe that for sure.
Okay, so what is it you tell yourself when someone gives you feedback and you're like, I'm not really sure I can believe that? What are you telling yourself in that moment?
I guess when I'm requesting or asking someone for feedback, I'm looking for like full and honest feedback. And so even if it's like holds a nugget of truth, I don't know if that nugget of truth represents the sum or like the whole of their opinion or experience.
So what is it you're telling yourself in that moment? Your self-talk.
Is this the truth?
Okay, so what I do with a client in a situation like this, since you're asking, I'll tell you.
Okay.
We don't realize, everybody does this. We don't realize how dark and negative our thinking really tends to be internally. So I had a client, still a client, but a situation where she, called up for a session and said, man, I'm really overwhelmed. So I say, okay, what are you telling yourself right now that's making you feel overwhelmed? And she said, well, I guess I'm just telling myself that I'm really overwhelmed. So I said to her, okay, let's pretend I walked up to you and said, let's say her name's Tina. It's not, but let's pretend, hey, Tina, you're overwhelmed. How would that make you feel, me telling you that? And she said, well, I guess it really wouldn't bother me that much. And I'm like, right. So you're telling yourself something much darker. And she thought for a minute, and then she said, and I get a little choked up sometimes when I recount this story, but she said, I think what I'm telling myself is my mom was right. I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm going to fail at this job just like I always have. And then I said, okay, now that is what's creating that feeling of overwhelm in you. So people tend to gloss over how dark the internal thoughts are. And it's not a question. You're telling yourself something about their feedback. It might be, and I don't know because I can't read your mind, but it might be something like, people generally aren't honest with me. People don't think I can really handle true honesty. People still think I'm just a college student or something like that.
That little kingdom kid that they changed the
People
diaper.
think I'm just a kingdom kid. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, no, I think that, I think that there's a lot of qualifying statements that people will share with me would be things like, oh, we just love you so much, or our families have such great relationships with each other. And so there's almost this because we have these external relationships, or because there is like a deeper context to the relationship, there's a desire to want to protect that relationship versus wanting to give me full and total honest feedback, and maybe in fear for that, like it will like really devastate me or hurt my feelings, or that it could potentially impact like a relationship that they may have with like my parents or something like that. I don't know.
Are your parents going to be listening to this?
I doubt it.
Okay, so in general, the things that block us can all fit into one of four categories. I can't remember if we talked about this, maybe we did, but fear, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs.
Okay.
Those are the four big internal blockers. What the interpretations, I won't get into the other three, but interpretation is when we think we know why someone is acting the way they are, saying something the way they're saying it, not responding if we haven't heard from them in a few weeks, or why things happen. We interpret it. And when we interpret something in a negative way, our energy starts to tank and we kind of get, this blocker pops up over our eyes. So if someone gives us feedback and we say, yeah, they're probably not giving us all the feedback that they really could, or I could tell by the glimmer in their eye, they're not being completely honest. We become a mind reader,
Sure.
We're interpreting. The best thing to do is to say, okay, if that's the feedback they want to give me, great. Let me look for the nuggets of truth there. Let me surround myself with people who will be brutally honest with me.
Yeah.
That is, which I'm guessing you do have that inner circle. Would I be right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. The rest, if they're going to be shallow with you, maybe they're not being shallow. One thing is for sure, those thoughts probably aren't serving you well. Would you say that's true?
Well, no, totally. And I think the thing that I desire is like, I want my company and I want us to be a bright light. I think that there is unfortunately, when disciples do business together, I think that there can be, I think a lot of the things that you just talked about, but even sometimes this attitude of like, well, because maybe on the flip side, there can be this like entitlement of, well, because we go to church together and because you should do business because we go to church together or because we share a lot of the same values. And so I don't want anyone to feel like I take that for granted. And I want everyone that we come in contact with to do business with to feel like they were treated as if we didn't know each other.
Wow. What a great way to approach it. I love that. So let me make sure I'm hearing you right. Are you saying you want to give people discounts because they're related spiritually, or they're expecting you to give them some type of break because we're related spiritually?
Say that one more time. Sorry, there's some music in the background. I'm sure you can hear it.
I just heard that. Where is that coming from?
we're doing in the show right now, and
that's
one of our
funny.
producers is editing. He's not wearing headphones. Anyways.
Okay. When you were just describing your interaction with other kingdom professionals or kingdom-owned businesses, are you saying they tend to feel entitled toward you, or you feel obligated to give them some type of entitled service? Which of those two?
No, what I was saying is I don't want, because I've been there on the other side of it, hiring a disciple and it not going well, or even hearing of stories of, people just not being excellent, honestly.
Yeah.
And I do not want that reputation. And so I fight very hard to, whether you are, whether it's the Stronger conference that we just did, or whether it is, we just did an event for University of Southern California, their Women's Athena Summit. Whether it's either of those scenarios, I don't care who the client is. I want us to be excellent.
So if you've not done it, please go to understandmyself.com.
Okay. I did do it. Yeah.
So do you remember, I can't remember, maybe I could look it up actually, because I'm sitting in front of my computer. Do you remember where you scored on the conscientiousness factor?
I should look it up real quick. Let me see.
I'm going to do a little bit while you're doing that now, just to see if I can find it.
Knowyourself.org. Is that?
No, that's Understand Myself.
Understand. Okay. 1 second. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. So let me just say.
I found it.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
So what is your conscientiousness score?
My conscience is high, 80th percentile.
Okay, that means in a room of 100 people, only 20 are more conscientious than you.
Okay.
And that's the personality trait where we're compelled to see a job done very well.
Mm-hmm.
That's you. It's what a blessing that you have that in you. It is. There's a flip side to that. The
Yeah, I
flip side
know.
to that is, yeah,
Terribly
you live
impatient
it every
person.
day.
I'll confess right now. Oh my gosh.
That's it. I mean, it is actually a shame cycle.
Uh-huh.
People that are very conscientious tend to struggle some with shame because they want to do a great job. And when they don't, they're very hard on themselves, which is exactly why when you hear something a little flowery in the feedback, you're like, oh, they're not telling me the whole truth. This is good. It will work to your benefit to continue to be highly conscientious because that's one of the 3 predictors of career success.
Okay.
IQ, EQ, and conscientiousness.
Okay.
I think, which speaks to why you are so successful. Would you agree? You're successful?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 100%. And I think, 2020, similarly to you, it's unfortunately been to our benefit.
Yeah,
So,
I know in your industry, man,
yeah,
like perfect.
yeah, but yeah, so, but I'll tell you, okay, man, I'm just confessing.
Lay
I'm
it on the
like,
line.
I
You can
am,
talk to me, Kalah.
okay, no one's listening.
No one's listening. Just us.
But like, I
Confidentiality.
am, so you went to you were a sponsor at Stronger and you spoke at
Yep.
Stronger.
Yep.
So you're probably very aware of the technical challenges at the beginning of the day.
No, what are you talking
What
about?
are we talking about? Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to feed into your paranoia right now.
Oh my
Oh, it was
gosh.
perfect. Are you kidding? It was so wonderful.
And it's
It was a good event, by the way. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
No, and I think that I walked away from that event because I knew that we did everything that was within our power to do. There was
Beautiful.
no stone unturned in terms of like our preparation.
Yeah.
And so I was able, because of that, I was honestly able to walk away from that event with my head held high. Like our team, I was just like, guys, you guys, I'm so proud of you as a team. Like it was just pretty like, it was intense. And we had, not only was Stronger going on that day, we also had the Midwest campus retreat. So like the whole
Oh,
Chicago
I didn't
group.
realize that.
Yeah, I know. I haven't told anybody.
Wow.
And we had the Southwest, like LA, all that, the whole campus ministry retreat, all going on at the exact same time. And so in my mind, I'm thinking before before all these events are getting ready to launch, okay guys, I have all my teams ready to go. We're just like, I'm like excited. I'm like, wow, we're like really prepared. We're really excited to like execute on this. And really it was supposed to be an exercise of, look at how we can execute multiple events at the same time. That was supposed to
Yeah.
be, that was what that
The
weekend was supposed
showcase.
to, yes, showcase, exactly. And then it all started melting in front of my face.
It wasn't melting. That's your conscientiousness talking. It didn't melt. It just didn't reach your standard in your own mind.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Well, and then I found myself saying things like internally, like, dang, like if it had to have happened anywhere, I'm glad it happened with this event.
Disciples. Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I just was like, I don't know how, and our partner, the platform that we use, I was like emailing them feverishly. I'm like, guys, what is going on? And they were like, yeah, it's us. And I'm like, is that it?
Yeah. Thank you. I'll take a refund now.
Exactly. Yeah. But like, I think that was it. I think exactly. I'm like putting all my, like, not all, but like a lot of hopes and desires and just like a lot of hard work went into that for all of those events. And then it just didn't go as planned. And so I think, and yeah, I think just knowing just kind of how I feel like we've been like very like humble in our approach and, wanting to work with people and
I agree.
Trying to make the finances work with each group that we come across. So anyways, that was just me like talking. That I don't know that what the point was, but
Yeah, ultimately, I think you're illustrating a very important point, if I could just highlight it.
mm,
With all of that going on, all three of those balls up in the air at the same time, it happened the way it happened. As you know, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of people were blown away by the event. And I saw some of the feedback given in general. It was pretty stinking amazing feedback in the 2020.
mm,
But you said something very important. I decided to say, walking away from the event, I got as prepared as I could, executed the best way I could possibly execute, and then let the rest go.
mm-hmm,
That is a thought pattern that serves you well. And I do think that's a biblical thought pattern.
mm,
This is the, Romans 12, to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You changed your thinking about it. And then Proverbs 16:33 says, though the lot is cast into the lap, its every decision is from the Lord.
mm,
And lots are what they used to choose Judas's replacement in the 12 apostles, Matthias. They
mm-hmm.
rolled the dice, basically.
Yeah.
So Proverbs 16:33 says, the way it happened, the way those three events happened, is exactly the way they were supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset I think you have. And that's the thing, in my mind, to really hold on to.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't want to accept it though. Like, I mean, it's just hard because I think that, man, again, the thing that and maybe the element of it happened the way it was supposed to, because, it stressed me out for a good week or two. And I just went through like Hopin's like service report to see like what was going, was there any indication that this would have happened on this
Every
day? And
morning.
of course, nothing
Yeah.
perfect. And then since then, nothing perfect. I'm just like, why? Why was it us? And, again, though, I think like, it was so funny. I was reading the comments and my parents were telling me, they're like, we had to walk away and just go pray because it was too stressful for them. But
Oh,
like,
really? They weren't the comments weren't intense. They were just what you would expect.
mm-hmm,
They were a little frustrated,
mm-hmm.
clearly, but I didn't find them particularly bad. Did you?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I think that it was, man, again, I walked away from that event just thinking of like how proud of my team I was. Cause I
Oh,
think
that's
that
good.
was the biggest win, to be honest, out of that whole weekend was, and that's actually consistently some feedback that I like really take to heart with people
Mm,
that share with us, is they're like, your team has just so much composure. And
mm,
so I just I take that to heart, really. I get a little bit emotional about it, but
mm,
it's just like things are going to be out of your control. There are going to be certain things that are just simply out of your control. It doesn't matter how much you prepare, but then like what your response is to that when things don't go right,
mm.
that's like, that's incredible. So I'm a little
And in the
emotional.
coaching world, we refer to that as external blockers. You can't control them. And then internal blockers, we can. And our response is based on kind of what we're telling ourselves as the thing is happening in front of us. The better we get at identifying when the blocker is external, we can't control it, the more peace we'll have about it as it's happening,
Yeah.
as it's unraveling. Although yours didn't unravel, but it was not ideal. It wasn't the ideal situation for you, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that exercise because clearly I needed it, but no, it's good. I think it's incredible what you do. What would you say, is, I guess for each person who works with you or decides to work with you, what is like generally like the goal? Like, is the goal to, you know, you just talked about like one of your clients just sold their business.
Yeah.
What are typical, like generally speaking, like what's the goal that people have when they sign up to work with you?
It's ultimately a specific outcome.
Mm,
Um, whether they know it when they first hire me or not, it always has to do with how they see themselves. And this is what's so interesting about Romans 12:2. Most people know what that verse says from heart, right? Be
mm-hmm,
transformed by the renewing of your mind, then you can test and prove what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. But we forget what Romans 12:3 says.
mm.
Do you know by chance?
So that we can attest his perfect and...
That's the end of Romans 12:2.
No, I don't.
Romans 12:3 says, but by the grace given me, I say to all of you, do not think more highly of yourself than you ought to.
Oh, that's convicting.
So he starts out by saying, be transformed by changing the way that you think.
Yes.
Just don't think too highly of yourself.
Yes.
Well, I personally believe this gives us a little window into the power of changing the way we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when we change that inner dialogue about us, if we rely on the truth, we're not telling ourselves something fanciful, but if we rely on what's true and we don't go too far with it, everything, the road ahead, even if it's not completely clear, it's way more fun. So when clients come to me, he hired me 7 years ago to help him sell his business. And we just did, I don't know why I just said that. It felt like a victory for me too.
You need to be like, hey bro, give me a tip.
Yeah. I will neither confirm nor deny that statement. So, but another guy hired me in Boston. He was starting his own architectural firm, and he just wanted to set up every morning the right way. So I coached him 15 minutes every day for 4 months.
Wow.
I had someone else was a VP or the CIO of a very large company and had a huge forklift upgrade to do for his entire back office infrastructure. He was going to go from on-prem to the cloud. And I helped him, as he wanted, create a project plan to make that happen. And we coached for 3 months. That always tends to be goal focused. But once we get into it, immediately the transformation that they go through is changing the way they see themselves. And that sticks with them forever. I mean, I've got clients that I've been working with for 7 years is the max, but just because they get to renew themselves when they change the way that they think about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one of the most transformative conversations I ever had was with a client who became a pretty good friend. And I was sharing with this person, we were having breakfast together, and I was sharing with this person, I was telling them that, a little bit about myself and how I started St. Rock Media, and told them how I didn't finish school, how I'd gone into the ministry and then got fired from the ministry, and then how
I didn't know that, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's a whole other story. And then broke up with my boyfriend at the time, and so there were all these things that were going on for in the course of 2 years, and I was pretty low, trying to start this business, hadn't finished school. Everyone around me is like, you need to finish school. And then and so I'm having this conversation, and I'm not expecting to share all this stuff with him, but it just kind of came out. And of course we're at Sam's number 7, and I'm just boo-hooing, eating my breakfast burrito. And he said something so profound to me that day that I just was it just clicked. And he was like, Kalah, you care more about what you think of you than what God thinks of you. And I was like, wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
And that's the connection I had to that, verse 3 of Romans 12 there.
Yeah. So what did you do with that after you left him?
It was so much easier to forgive myself.
Yeah. It's grace.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that we all want to remember. Let's just be gracious with ourselves. The rest kind of is going to happen. I use the analogy all the time. We're on a roller coaster ride. All of us are. And some people cling on to it, gritting their teeth, white knuckling, waiting for it to be over, praying for it to be over, when other people are punching their fists into the air, screaming, loving every second of it.
Yeah.
We get to choose which of the two we are based on what we tell ourselves about us.
Yes.
Because the roller coaster is never coming off the track. God promises that no matter what happens to us, the roller coaster stays on the track. We get to choose how much fun we're going to have. And that usually has to do with self-grace, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, after those events that took place, I've just been like, man, you know, I've been thinking of other examples, just very tangible that and I don't know everyone's personal story. And selfishly, that's part of the reason why I do this podcast, because I just want to get to know people and kind of learn from them. But like one person that I was just sharing this with, Greg Moretsky just like 2 days ago. And I was telling him, I was like, after that so we're doing the teachers conference next March. And I was just sharing with him about kind of how I'd processed the whole event for Stronger. And I was telling him, I was like, I think, I know that Elon Musk is not like a religious person or anything like that, but he has this sense of like resiliency and self-determination that's just pretty outstanding. And I mean, like, here I am, like, putting on like live events, live streaming. It's hard. It's not like easy to do, but this man is like putting people on the moon and, putting rockets into space. I saw Starlink the other day, which like blew my mind, but like,
I don't think I know what that is yet. I've not been tied into the news so much. I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah. Starlink, it's like these like little satellites. And the idea is that he's going to create a network or a web of satellites across the globe that will provide really, inexpensive, like fiber-like quality internet. So that,
all for that.
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps. I'm just like, it's like, what was your 2020 like? And Elon Musk is like, put some people on the moon, launch Starlink.
But he did have that interview where they were asking about what's the likelihood of you guys making it to Mars. Have you seen this interview?
No.
I recommend watching it. Okay. He gets visually depressed right on stage as he admits, I'll never be able to reach Mars the way that it took us how long it took us to get to the moon. Mathematically, it's impossible for us to reach Mars while I'm still alive. And him coming to that realization right on stage, we do this to ourselves. That's probably what drives him. But there is a good saying, my wife always reminds me of this because I'm guilty of it so much. Comparison is the thief of joy. And Jordan Peterson is a guy I listen to all the time, profound guy. He was speaking to a client. He's a therapist, and a client hired him to help him. And the guy was saying, man, I'm just really not happy with what I've accomplished in these last 15 years. It's very discouraging to me. My roommate in college accomplished so much more than me. Why am I, holding myself back? And Jordan says, okay, what have you accomplished? And basically, this guy set up 72 global kind of like seed organizations for super high technology, 72 of them.
Wow.
Like a global learning center, profound.
Wow.
And Jordan, as he tells it, is asking the guy, wow, why would you be down on yourself about that? And he's like, because my roommate, what he does, it puts me in the dust. And he's like, so who was your roommate in college? And he said, Elon Musk. So he's literally comparing himself to Elon Musk, and he got so depressed he had to go hire a therapist. So I do think the less we compare ourselves with others, the better we'll be. It's hard to do for conscientious people, but it is a good thing to strive for.
Yeah. Well, and not so much comparing like myself to Elon. I'm like, that's okay. I'm not interested in that at all. But more so just the thought, what I was inspired by him is like, here he has, these rockets that he's trying to like send into the universe and
monetize.
And then sometimes they blow up. And we just had a rocket that blew up more or less, you get the analogy, but that didn't stop him from continuing to send human beings, send them to the moon or to the space station. I don't know which one it was, the space station, I think. So like, I think that was, and I've received a lot of encouragement from people too about that. And they're just like, you're doing a bunch of new stuff. And when it's new, it doesn't always turn out exactly the way, you want it to. So
you're a trendsetter. interestingly, I remember when we were having our pre-call, Greg was asking about what you were doing. He's like, "Hey, I want to hire you for the elder thing, the training." I remember that little deal. The seed was planted during that 2020 pre-call. I remember.
Yeah. So, well, Shawn, what are some, with the time that we have left? How much time do we have left?
I don't know.
I think we're over time. But like, let me ask you one last question. Sorry, this has been such a great conversation.
Yeah,
I've lost myself.
I'm enjoying it too.
But like, what would you say is your goal? You said that you had a mission, but I don't think you said what it really was. So I'd love to kind of hear, what is your mission? What is your goal with Motivation Year?
Ultimately, there is a large Christian network of, church on Sunday, work on Monday, faith at work, that are trying to help believers go to work and still have a strong faith at work. That is not even remotely close to what I'm doing, because we are really blessed in the churches of Christ because we train to follow Christ, keep in step with the Spirit every day on our own. Everything at church is geared toward that. We get fed so richly. When I see, many other church denominations not doing that. So it's created this need for people to just be a Christian at work. That's not what I want. I want people to see their job as the mission field that God hand selected them for, as it says in Acts 17:26. I maybe read a little bit into this, but it's so profound to me that God, in my mind, uses our career to establish the boundaries of our habitation. In him we live, move, and exist through our career. God places us right there because people are groping in the dark. They don't know what they're looking for. We know it's God. But to do more than just see it as a mission field, the best way in my mind to impact their job for Christ is to be in a high level position. Can they, as a factory worker, reach out to the people on their left and their right? Yes. I have found, however, that when you do have a senior role, a senior executive role, people will listen a little longer. So I want to teach people how to use God's word to, get into that, corporate executive type role, share their faith, and impact as many people as possible. And with the money that they make, because of that increase, they give it back into the mission, which I think you probably would agree. We have really, our giving has been dialed way back over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to learn to give more as well. Long answer to the question.
That's wonderful. That's exactly what St. Rock Media is all about. So, well, I'll be signing up for some more time with you, Shawn.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely needed. Do you work with groups as well?
I do. I'm starting a mastermind group, an entrepreneurs mastermind group, my second one in January, but I also do mastermind groups for employees. If a company hires me for their executive team, I coach their entire executive team. I'm doing a disc assessment for another company now. So in short, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I think, so obviously I have St. Rock Media, which is just the company I own on my own. And then there's Truce Media, and that's a group of 5 of us co-founders, and we could use your help too. So
I will tell you. Do you want my advice?
Please.
Dissolve it. I'm just kidding.
Dissolve it.
Yeah, you just have to find the common ground, but we can talk about that more later. So when do you have time to sleep? The podcast, St. Rock Truce Media.
Oh gosh. That's why I'm single.
Yes, I was just going to say, and your future hubby, where does he fit in?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you find him, be sure to let me know.
It's interestingly, I do coach a lot of single professional women who aspire. I would say 25% of the time we're talking about relationship stuff. It's very interesting. I love it too.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the whole dating thing, and
Gosh, we'll have to have you back because clearly we're not done talking.
Awesome.
So awesome. Thanks so much, Shawn, for being on. And
it's great to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, no, this is great. Shawn, where can people find you?
motivationeer.com, motivationeer.com, and my YouTube channel. The best way to support me is to go to my YouTube channel, watch, like, and subscribe and share.
Awesome. Perfect, guys. Go ahead and go to Shawn's channel, Motivationeer, on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. And then while you're at it, before you leave, go ahead and like, comment, and share, and subscribe to this channel, the Kalah Haley channel, as well. We're excited to have more guests that just encourage you and inspire you in the weeks to come. So Christmas is next week. If you can't already believe it, 2020 is gone so fast. But yeah, just, find someone that you can encourage, and hopefully you can be encouraged this Christmas season as well. So we'll see you guys next week, and have a great day.